Alright, hello everyone. So, with the King's Cup wrapping up, I wanted to do a little discussion, mostly just to set up a main channel video. I have one that's going to be going over Ink Vacuum and why it's dropped off and reworking the special a bit. But I figure before we get into that we should talk about what actually is going on in Rainmaker in the first place, because as you could probably tell from watching the tournament, there is a decent amount of vac in it from Vacuum Rapid mainly, though there have been V-Jet a little bit in some of these tournaments, and even a bit of V-Charger, which personally surprises me a bit. But I want to talk a little bit about it because I think Rainmaker has a very odd metagame, and I want to talk about why, and then, give a little bit of my analysis on it, because I personally do not really believe in the Vacuum Rapid. I don't think it is as good as the results would imply that it currently gets in Japan, and I want to talk about why I think that way. So, let's start with one thing first. I want to start off this mode by talking about what's good in it, and why the backlines in it are kind of, like, in a terrible spot. So, I think that some of the most important things in Rainmaker are DPS, to be able to pop the Rainmaker shield, consistently fast kill times for taking out the Rainmaker when he's scoring points. I think that substance specials do this are also very important, so I think a lot of lethality is useful. And then I think fast weapons are quite good as well, so things that can go in and kill the Rainmaker quickly, like a carbon, or have high mobility around the map, those kind of things are useful. And then finally is the specials. I think that specials that can defend against Rainmaker from a safe distance, like be able to kill it more consistently, like Zuka or Crab, are pretty good. I think that specials like Cooler that keep up the pace are obviously very good. But most importantly, I want these specials to be able to, like, both affect the Rainmaker shield, or be able to kill the Rainmaker effectively when situations call for it. So, why is it so messed up for anchor weapons? I think that typically the anchors that shine in these attributes for Rainmaker are typically supposed to be the Splatlings. That's the class of weapons that do very well with it, especially something like Heavy. However, Splatlings just aren't very good in this mode outside of Edit, and that's its own thing we'll get into a little bit, because Edit's not really an anchor, but it's being played like one. So instead, we see a few different options. We see the Vacuum Rapid and V-Jet like I talked about, we see Pencil as the anchor, and we also see a little bit of Wellstring. Now, Wellstring is basically everything I just talked about is pretty good at it. It has insane DPS on the Rainmaker shield. It can kill the Rainmaker quickly since it has a one-shot. Not super consistent, but it's there. The mobility isn't, quite there, but it is an anchor. And for anchors, I don't think its speed is that bad, all things considered. And it has a bad kit. And no getting around that. That's kind of the problem with Wellstring. You're either going to go with the Hammer, which gives you another bomb for Rainmaker shield damage, but, Hammer. Or you'll go with the more consistent kit that has tools that aren't as effective with the Rainmaker, which is your Sensor Wavebreaker. So, I think that option is pretty limited because of the specials involved. And this is where we have to talk about the cooler weapon of the comp. Because typically, the cooler weapon is just covered by a Pencil or maybe Edit that hangs really far back. So, if you are not running Pencil, you're either picking whatever anchor weapon you're picking alongside an Edit or a Zap. I think if it's picked alongside an N-Zap, then you have an N-Zap. I just personally don't think that weapon is very useful right now. I think that it's not great at fighting. I think that it takes the place of something like a Shot, which gets a very powerful special for this mode with something like Zuka. And I think that overall, it's much better for the cooler weapon to be covered by something that will live more consistently and keep up with the output of the special. Now, Edit can be picked with the other anchors. In fact, we saw it with Vacuum Rapid in this tournament a decent bit. But then you have two weapons that are, a little bit awkward if things get dicey. If you're defending, it could be a bit tricky if you get rushed down. Basically, you have two weapons that don't really want to be in close quarters combat. It's kind of hard to cover each other for that. So that can be a bit of a problem as well. Well, let's get another Rainmaker match. Hopefully we find one. We found Eeltail again. That's funny. So, how does Vacuum Rapid play into this? Vacuum Rapid has to play with Zap or Edit. Vacuum Rapid doesn't have good DPS to the shield. Doesn't reliably kill the Rainmaker at all. Its special sucks on defense. We had one game where basically Lobster just never used Vacuum to avoid that problem on defense. We had another one where it was used on defense, which I believe is this game, and it just didn't really do anything with the comp it was paired with. So, what I think makes up for that is that the kit of Mist and Ink Vacuum is one of the strongest objective kits in the game for Rainmaker. Mist is very good at slowing down pushes, and Vacuum is very good at securing checkpoints, or just, in general, rushing the Rain to the lead. It's kind of a, if you can manage to get the Rainmaker most of the way, Vacuum can get you through the hardest part of the push. And, like, to the credit of this weapon and special, this is the most common anchor for Rainmaker in Japan. Has plenty of results to back it up. It's like, clearly it works well enough to some extent. But I still think it's kind of awkward. So what about Pencil with backline stuff? Now, Pencil doesn't have great DPS. That's been a problem with it for a while. But I think it does free up the other three weapons to have relatively consistent options. So I think the Pencil, or even Edit in this case, can be used to just run relatively consistent fighting weapons and just kind of play the game normally. As soon as you get a really good push, which is what happened this game, is where I think Vacuum Rapid tends to show a bit of its flaws. Because once you have to do this giant push yourself, once the other team is a big lead, this is where the resources that you have on this team can't really do as well. So something we'll see in this game is the other team is going to push up and try to take bridge, and basically just ignore the Rainmaker entirely, and just play to hold the enemy bridge away. With the Rainmaker completely out of play, because they have no need to go for a better lead than this, the other team really struggles with retake. Now, part of this is added on to the fact that they also have a 96. I think that the biggest problem is running 96 alongside Vacuum Rapid and having two specials that suck at this problem at the same time, adding to, you know, the overall flaw of it. But I think it's an issue you have to make up for regardless. I think that no matter what, the retake is more tricky. It's tough for the main weapon to do as much, and the special isn't going to do as much. And so it creates a very bad state of disadvantage that is basically being made up for by Vacuum Rapid's toolkit to snowball pushes very heavily in its favor if they get some kind of momentum. And obviously that means that if you're able to stop the push ahead of time and it doesn't get that far, it's not a big deal, but that's easier said than done, obviously. So, my personal opinion is I think there should be compositions that both have the tools to deal with Vacuum properly and have better tools at dealing with the objective and have a bit better retake tools available. Stuff like swords. I think that Stamper and Decav are both very good in this mode, particularly Stamper, since Zipcaster provides a relatively consistent option against Vacuum if you're fighting it. I think that V-Shot is insanely good in this mode. It breaks the Rainmaker shield very easily, it's consistent at fighting, it can get picks, and Zuka is insanely broken in this mode where your objective is located and slower. It's hard to ask for anything better for a Zuka. And I think if we were to pick around that, and have comps that are more consistent at just generally fighting and, like, playing the game more normally, then I think the Vacuum Rapid stuff would struggle in most situations if it isn't able to get a breakaway push. But obviously that's just very theory crafting, I think, between, you know, the main weapon struggles, the special struggles, and then, you know, being stuck with either the awkward combo with Edit or Zap is a bit of a problem. But right now, what actually happens is, no, teams are good enough at working around it to the point where it is, like, winning over these other compositions. So, it's hard to say for sure, which is correct, but the results, you know, lean against what my personal theories are for the game, and that's fine. It doesn't really change my opinion too much, because I still think that that's something that could happen, but I think it's important to establish that that is my take compared to everything else. I think that it's better to invest into more generalist comps that are fine when it's fighting, that are fine a bit more on defense, and are going to get more advantageous situations in the first place, rather than taking a gamble on a very risky special and main weapon for the potential objective power it provides in the right situations. But that's just my take on it. I wanted to get that out there. So, Vacuum Rapid aside, even with any other weapon though, I think what's important to note is it's always going to be awkward. You're either going to have Pencil, and it's just Rainmaker shield damage isn't going to be great. It's going to have some situations where it struggles. You're going to have, like, one of the Vacuum weapons and have what I've just been going over for a while. You're going to have Well String, and you're not going to have great specials either and have to play around the shield DPS. no matter what, there's a bit of a problem, and I think that's why it's a little bit awkward, on top of crack and cheese also being a thing in this build that I didn't even get to talk about very much, which is just a whole nother factor to think about. So, at the end of the day, I think that Rainmaker is the most awkward for comps because it is very tricky to run the kind of things that have made the comps more normalized in the first place, and so because of that, the meta for it is a bit different. Alright, that's everything I have to say, though. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, big vacuum video on the main channel tomorrow.